connect, create, educate. Unlock your limitless potential.
Be the flow.
The trip I never took. Fresh out of college with a theater performance degree, freshly single, with an acting career calling my name, I knew California was the place for me. I had purchased the plane ticket, promised a friend I would meet her and go apartment hunting in San Diego, and I had printed an image of the San Diego coast and hung it by my bed as I prepared for my new life as a star. Some say these dreams are selfish and we must be practical if we are to become successful. Some say we must serve others in order to gain the passport to our dreams. Some say leaping into your dreams with zero abandon is the only way. I wasn't much focused on the million ways I could fail, only that I knew I was supposed to be seen and heard. I had little reason to stay where I was, in a flat overlooking Chicago with 2 feral cats I had rescued from a keg party. My boxes were packed, plane ticket bought, and I was a week away from starting my new life in San Diego. Yet, sadly, I stayed entangled in a relationship with a man who truly didn't care for me, at least in the way I needed him to. He prioritized his work, and it devastated me because it was such an obvious projection of my deepest injury. Yep, you know the one, Daddy Issues 101. If only I could make him love me more than his work. A losing battle every time. This pattern played like a broken record for years. Each time I grew to loathe myself more for making the same mistake. Each time the recovery took longer, and each time I vowed to never do it again. Somehow, I had convinced myself that giving to everyone else was somehow more honorable. I began to disdain my kindness and felt lost when not serving others. A double bind. Cognitive dissonance, as they call it. The habit of overextending myself for those who were also broken or unavailable had become embedded in my conscious actions. Maybe the brokenness throughout humanity is a result of what some people call latchkey kids, a generation born into separateness and forced to create a stable foundation on 2 halves of a whole. For those who don't understand the term, Google defines a latchkey kid or a latchkey child as a child who returns to an empty home after school, or a child who is often left at home with no supervision because their parent or parents are away at work. Coming from a broken home causes extreme stress because in our adolescence, stability is found when there is a sturdy and predictable foundation. Add to the mix that I was a child who was highly sensitive. My growing years were turbulent and felt uncertain and stressful. My parents separated when I was 2. This division is where my overcompensation took root and grew. The desire to fix and people please created an imaginary band-aid in what I perceived as an injured home, a home split and divided, and a wound I couldn't heal. As a young person, I searched for new and better ways to win the validation and appreciation of my parents, excelling in gymnastics, achieving high marks in school, despite my learning difference, which went untreated for most of my youth. Adolescence introduced me to my favorite drug. I became a love junkie. After learning about the withdrawal symptoms, I wasn't very happy. Depression and rebellion became my best friend. I wanted something I might never get in this lifetime. I wanted a real family, true security. I wanted to be well fed, celebrated, appreciated, and above all, important. I wanted to feel loved. My incessant need to please and to show up for others at work and in relationships eventually caught up with me. Years of overextending myself kept me from discovering who I was supposed to be. Can we say self-sabotage? Well, I knew deep down I had something special, but I kept stepping over myself to see who else needed me. Hell, I'd read all the books and been through the counseling, yet somehow refused to learn my lesson. Perhaps I was resentful for letting my fear overcome my dreams. Either way, the resentment emerged and became extremely toxic, showing itself in jealousy, insomnia, excessive habits, and extreme mood fluctuations. I began lying to my boss, feeling ashamed for needing more downtime, feeding my isolation and self-hatred. I couldn't give any more of myself. Tapped out, empty, and running on fumes. This must have been the wake-up call my inner being was masterminding behind the scenes. I just needed to answer the call. So, after 36 years of asking, why am I here? What's the point? And receiving limited answers, I decided to kill myself. Not in the way you think. I had to kill every part of me that was in the way of my brilliance, my perfection. I had to give birth to myself in a new and profound way through recreating my inner dialogue and changing my external environment and considering what parts of myself were worth keeping. More on this soon, but in the meantime, consider an extended conversation on broken homes. Of course, people separate, and naturally we need to make that choice in certain cases, yet we're living in a time when divorce is standard and commonplace. Why, though? What do people gain from marriage? Why do they continually get married in a time where the divorce rate is clearly showing it doesn't work? Why does it still exist? Is this a necessary step to keep tradition alive or a tax benefit?
Whoa.
Studio.com. Unlock your limitless potential. Connect, create, educate,